a bushfire raging outside my house, and there's a bushfire raging inside my life. Deep burning anger has come into my heart. I decide not to break things, cause I've done that before and it doesn't work. Well, there's a bushfire burning inside my heart. I don't know where to go, but I just make a start. Sit down, well, I sit down. Well, there's a deep, 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 deep desire in me. I'm stuck in a shell, but I want to be free. And I got that weird old funny feeling again. Oh, I feel like a bush, but I'm a burning man. Said, burn, burn, burn another one down to the burn, burn, burn another one down. Burn, burn, burn another one down to the ground. Another one. Burn, burn, burn another one down to the burn, burn, burn another one down. Burn, burn, burn another one down to the ground. I see a fire burning down the mountain. Come on in, you got to sit and you got to see the smoke up rising. Do what you do, don't be afraid to get through. Cause if you're sitting on the beach, you know you're safe and you might just be fire touching water, taking over the sound. And everybody wanna get up to the higher ground. But don't you see they're smiling at me and don't get upset. Without the fire, nothing goes, so don't you get it wet. I said, burn, burn, burn another one down to the burn, burn, burn another one down. Burn, burn, burn another one down to the ground. Another one. Burn, burn, burn another one down. Burn, burn, burn another one. Burn, burn, burn another one down to the ground. 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 Well, there's a bushfire burning in the USA, and there's a bushfire burning in the world today. There's a bushfire burning in the hearts of men. Well, I don't know where it started, but I sure know where it's gonna end. It's gonna go down. Burn, burn, burn another one down to the burn, burn, burn another one down. Burn, burn, burn another one down to the ground. It's gonna go down. Burn, burn, burn another one down. Burn, burn, burn another one. Burn, burn, burn another one down to the ground. Another one. Burn, burn, burn another one down. Burn, burn, burn another one. Burn, burn, burn another one down to the ground. Another one. Burn, burn, burn another one down. Burn, burn, burn another one. Burn, burn, burn another one down to the ground. Another one. Burn, burn, burn another one down. Burn, burn, burn another one down. Burn, burn, burn another one down to the ground. Down to the ground. Another one. Burn, burn, burn another one down. Burn, burn, burn another one down. Burn, burn, burn another one down to the ground. Down to the ground. Another one. 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 Who lit the fire and the who lit the fire and the who lit this fire and the who lit the fire. there's a bushfire raging outside my house. And there's a bushfire raging inside my life. Deep burning anger has come into my heart. I decide not to break things, cause I've done that before and it doesn't work. Well, there's a bushfire burning inside my heart. I don't know where to go, but I just make a start. Sit down, well, I sit down. Well, there's a deep, 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 deep desire in me. I'm stuck in a shell, but I want to be free. And I got that weird old funny feeling again. Oh, I feel like a bush, but I'm a burning man. Said, burn, burn, burn another one down to the burn, burn, burn another one down. Burn, burn, burn another one down to the ground. Another one. Burn, burn, burn another one down to the burn, burn, burn another one down. Burn, burn, burn another one down to the ground. I see a fire burning down the mountain. Come on in, you got to sit and you got to see the smoke up rising. Do what you do, don't be afraid to get through. Cause if you're sitting on the beach, you know you're safe and you might just be fire touching water, taking over the sound. And everybody wanna get up to the higher ground. But don't you see they're smiling at me and don't get upset. Without the fire, nothing goes, so don't you get it wet. I said, burn, burn, burn another one down to the burn, burn, burn another one down. Burn, burn, burn another one down to the ground. Another one. Burn, burn, burn another one down. Burn, burn, burn another one. Burn, burn, burn another one down to the ground. 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 Well, there's a bushfire burning in the USA. And there's a bushfire burning in the world today. There's a bushfire burning in the hearts of men. Well, I don't know where it started, but I sure know where it's gonna end. It's gonna go down. Burn, burn, burn another one down to the burn, burn, burn another one down. Burn, burn, burn another one down to the ground. It's gonna go down. Burn, burn, burn another one down. Burn, burn, burn another one. Burn, burn, burn another one down to the ground. Another one. Burn, burn, burn another one down. Burn, burn, burn another one. Burn, burn, burn another one down to the ground. Another one. Burn, burn, burn another one down. Burn, burn, burn another one. Burn, burn, burn another one down to the ground. Another one. Burn, burn, burn another one down. Burn, burn, burn another one down. Burn, burn, burn another one down to the ground, down to the ground. Another one. Burn, burn, burn another one down. Burn, burn, burn another one down. Burn, burn, burn another one down to the ground, down to the ground. Another one 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 down to the ground. Another one. Who lit the fire and who lit the fire and who lit this fire and who lit the fire?
Welcome, folks, to our very first episode of 2021. Welcome to the Live Cook channel, and I'm your host, Pete Goffe-Wood. Well, it's great to have you with us this evening. Please let us know whereabouts you are in South Africa, where you're cooking and who you're cooking with. You're probably wondering why we have the fantastic Mediterranean kind of vibe going on in the background. It's largely because I'm coming to you from a yacht on the Bosphorus in Istanbul, but also it'll be revealed a little bit more in our theme a little bit later on. We've got a brand new series for you, a brand new year, but as such, we will still be cooking along with the top chefs of South Africa, and tonight is probably no exception. Probably better than most known. I would imagine tonight's chef is probably the most recognized chef in South Africa at the moment. He needs very little introduction. Mr. Reuben Riffel. How are you, Reuben?
Pete, very good to see you as always. I'm very well, and I'm happy that tonight I can focus on the cooking. Normally I've got to do everything, but I'm glad to have you here, and good to see you.
Well, cool, man. Great. Well, we've been seeing you a lot on television of late, and you really have got the presenting down. You really are usually multitasking, so we're glad that you get to concentrate really just on the cooking tonight. Now, this is a special year, and we are producing special experiences, something a little bit different. We're changing it up this year, and the videos and the photos that we saw have particular relevance to your thinking behind tonight's dish.
Well, Pete, I mean, you would know, as chefs, we don't only love cooking, but we always also love to experience different types of dishes. But, this dish for me was really inspired by my travel. Not always holiday, it's, a little bit of business and work. Traveling especially around Italy, France, and then even parts of Turkey and Istanbul. And I was inspired especially by a specific flavor that I've always loved having, especially with seafood, and lately also sometimes with some meaty dishes. So this dish was really inspired by that. We pick up certain sort of wherever we go, we always somehow pick up new ideas, but there's some ideas that maybe got you earlier in your career, especially, that kind of like stays with you. And in my case, I sort of got a few of those that I sort of loved, maybe in the first kitchen that I worked, or on, for example, when I traveled. Fennel or aniseed was sort of like that specific taste that I love for some reason. And over the years, I've always tried to incorporate it into sort of different dishes, and also obviously in some cocktails, because I also love cocktails.
Well, there we go. Cool. That's from, and you're so right. We draw all of our cooking on our own experiences, and we're very fortunate to tap into your experience and the fantastic traveling you've done. But also, we here on the Live Cook channel would be nothing without our regulars, and we'd like to give a shout out to a couple of people who've been with us right from the very beginning. In fact, we've got a list of a couple of our regulars who've done at least 5 programs with us. A nice shout out to Alban Atkinson and his team, Kim White, Chanel Krobler, to Tori and Brenda Elshov, Mida Kirova, Derek and Lisa Patrick, Goltz Westman, who's on board and has already told everyone to watch their language, Tyler Kuhn, Alison Reed, your mate and mine, Carl Vesvick, who sends his regards, and to Sharon and Mark Troop, who I know are already on board and getting their pans fired up and deep into their prep. And of course, thanks for your support. It's great to have you on board again. But we also have someone with us who is our live cook all-star, for want of a better word. And he has been with us. This is his 10th cook in a row. So a big shout out and a cheers to Robert Hall. Good man. Great to have you on board. And thanks for this continued support. And I hope you enjoy your meal this evening. Cheers. Okay.
Well done, Robert.
So, guys, let us know how many times I see you coming from. I don't know that you may have noticed at the very up front, we have Marvello on board as our headline sponsor. Great to have them on board. So, Rube, tell us, we know where your influence comes from and your love of fennel. Tell us about the dish we're cooking tonight.
Okay, Pete, so tonight we're cooking roasted hake and prawn, and I'm serving that with a spicy jalapeno and lime linguine. And we're going to make a sauce, and that's where I'm going to infuse the fennel into. So we're making a fennel cream sauce to go with that.
Excellent. Sounds bloody marvelous. I think it's a fantastic. And before we get stuck into that, we've also, of course, those of you who have cooked with us before know we're all about prizes and rewarding those that support us and join in all the fun. And speaking of which, we have first of our prizes to prize winners, and that goes to our December social media competition winner, and that goes to congrats to Peter Hewson from Johannesburg. Congrats, that was a nice one there. And then, of course, not quite a prize, but another shout out. We have happy birthday to Sean Weed, to Jan Smith, to Brian Harvey. And Brian, don't worry, I saw your message earlier. You may have spilt a bit of your Pernod, but you'll be all right. Just add a little bit more white wine if you've got some. And to Vicky Sabor as well. And of course, we actually just noticed in our scroll up that we've also got a special anniversary that we're celebrating to Roberto and Therese, who are celebrating their 34th wedding anniversary tonight with this cook, courtesy of a gift from their kids. So welcome on board, guys, and congratulations. 34 years is quite an achievement. Okay, so there we have it. Okay, so as you see, Marbella on board. So we will be announcing, for those of you who are tuned in before and have been watching us on social media, we will be announcing the big winners of our Weber Spirit 23B and the Weber Hub Connect prizes worth about 13,000 Rand. We'll be announcing those later on in the show. So if you are in line for that prize, do hang about. And again, if you've been with us for the first time, those of you who've been here know how it works. Those of you who've just joined us for the first time, we like this to be as interactive as possible. If you see on your screens, there is a great little spot where you can do comments, and people are doing that already. And anything you want to know during the cook, please give us a shout. You can use the hashtag #LiveCookChannel and let us know what it is you want to ask. If you want some advice from Reuben or just some general questions. For those of you watching for the first time and not cooking along, you too can join us next time. You need to book to cook, and the details where to book for our next cook will come up at the end, towards the end of the program. So hang around. Oh, there you go, from Quicket, Food Guru, and Web Tickets if you want to join us. For those of you who've done this before, you already have your water boiling. You would have packed out your ingredients. But for those of you cooking for the first time, Rube, why don't you go through what's in the box for people tonight?
Okay, Pete, so I'll go through the main ingredients for the dish tonight. So we have Barilla pasta, and we're using linguine. And
Yep.
you know, the great thing, I mean, you would know, it's always great to use fresh pasta, but you can never get it al dente And this is a very good pasta. I use it quite a lot at home, so I'm using that. Then my friends at Robertson's have added the paprika. Then we have Parmalat, did the cream for us.
Fantastic.
We have Grana Padano or Parmesan cheese, hard cheese. Our lime. So we're using the zest and the juice. Jalapeno chilies to give that little bit of spice, of course.
Nice bit of zing, yes, excellent.
And then in our little sachets, we have the Pernod, and that's where the fennel comes from, as well as some fennel seeds. And then we have some white wine.
Very sexy.
And then, yeah, there was, yeah, very sexy. And then, of course, there was a few additions in the box, but let me just finish off with this beautiful product. This is from Pescaluna, our hake and our prawns. Also a company that I've been working with now for a couple of months. They just do excellent seafood. And I see them in the next couple of months, you know, just going from strength to strength, especially in South Africa. I mean, they've been exporting this amazing stuff to Europe for a while now, and they're going to continue that, but the quality is just amazing. So I'm really happy to be working with them.
Fantastic.
And then there was a few other surprises in there, of course, Pete, that
yes,
is just for a little extra, basically.
Well, we've got this magnificent, say, the Marvello butter flavor. For those of you who want to use this, if Reuben's going to be using butter in his recipe, but feel free to use this. And then I've already tucked into a little bit of my my Sally Williams nougat. So I'm going to make sure we get that on the screen. There we go. So it's looking good. And of course, who couldn't go wrong without a nice glass of bubble, especially when we're doing some seafood. This is some fantastic bottle of Van Leeuwen Absolute Zero non-alcoholic sparkling wine. Could have done with this a lot of this during the recent lockdown. So, well, cheers to that. Oh, I have a note here. Following the runaway success of the almost zero range of dealcoholized wine. Just over a year ago, Van Leeuwen is once again leading with the launch of their trend-setting Absolute Zero sparkling range of wine. That's 0% alcohol, so you can enjoy this range of bubbles to your heart's content, guilt-free and without compromise. Share your bubbles and dish on social media using #EnjoyAbsoluteZero. Fantastic. So there we have it. Just a quick shout out here. I see everyone's checking in. Rona and Bishan are celebrating their 16th winning anniversary. And I see also that Mark and Carolyn Slubbert. Carolyn says, this is a Valentine's present from my hubby. I hope Mark is doing the cooking, Carolyn, that he hasn't bought you a present and then you're still having to cook dinner for him. So let's just see how that pans out. Keep us posted. Okay, folks. So, and welcome back. As part of the world's largest food and beverage company, Nestlé Professional is passionate about supplying you with branded solutions that are creative, customized, and commercially viable. For a full recipe, visit the screen, the link on screen now. If you want to knock up that gorgeous looking dessert. Just a quick mention, which I forgot to mention, and that's the fabulous nougat. And I see, as usual, we add some sweet goodies to our box so that you can sample them as dessert after you've cooked your meal. But it looks like the Sally Williams nougat, which is, I have to say, too delicious to hold back on, has been scoffed by most of the people before they even started. Some of them ate it the moment they got their box. Those of you with some restraint will be able to have that gorgeous nougat, the almond honey nougat, a little bit later after you've cooked Reuben's fantastic dish. Right. So, Rube, we are ready to start some cooking. It's the reason we're here. So, your roasted hake and prawns, spicy jalapeno linguine with fennel cream. Take us away, Maestro.
Great, Pete. Thank you very much. This is what I've been waiting for, and I just want to welcome everyone out there as well joining us tonight. I'm really looking forward to it. Now, we've broken down the recipe into different sections just so it's easy for everybody to follow. We're going to go through each section like if you look on the recipe card, we've sort of broken it down there for you. And we're going to start with a sauce. So I just quickly also want to add before we go that some of you are obviously cooking for 4 people and then some of you are cooking for 2. So if you're cooking for 4, we're going to increase some of that cooking times a little bit, especially to get to the right consistency of the sauce. Okay, so I've got my sauce pot here, and to that I'm adding my fennel and my white wine.
Cool. Oh, that's
and
clever.
That we're just gonna
you put the wine back in a cup. That's quite sharp, dude.
Yeah, it's just for the sachet. Otherwise, it's gonna like what happened to one of our customers.
Yes. He spilt the Pernod. Yes.
I hope he's still got some left there.
I'm sure he's good enough.
Okay, Pete. So what I'm going to be doing is I'll reduce that by half, just to infuse a bit of that fennel flavor into the wine. And really the idea with using the wine, like I mean, it adds that little bit of richness and that bit of tartness or slight acidity once we start adding the cream, because you want that nice sort of balance. So that should take a couple of minutes just to get it to sort of reduce by half. And then I think it's also a good time. I'm sure everyone has already boiled their water. So it's a good time just to get our pasta in as well. So I've seasoned it. Normally how I explain it is if you season the water, you just want to want to taste the salt in the water. That's it. Not overly salty. You just want to taste it, because we're going to season later on a little bit again.
I noticed, Rube, that you've also, for me, it's an old housewife style. As people always say, well, you have to put oil in the water when you're cooking pasta. Are you a believer in that?
Pete, my mom used to do that as well. I think the oil will basically give some flavor maybe to your pasta, but I'm going to add olive oil later on as well. It doesn't need it in there. And it's definitely not really necessary. I know sometimes people say it keeps your pasta from sticking, but I don't really do it that way. I don't believe in that.
Look, no, I agree with you. As far as I'm concerned, it's an old housewife's tale. What you need is what you've got is a big pot of water that's going to come up to the boil as fast as humanly possible when you put it in. I think we all learned the hard way when we used to get an entire packet of spaghetti and try and force it into one of those little saucepans and push it slowly down. I think that's the secret, not letting it stick together, is a big pot of water, because the oil just stays on the top. It floats on the top. And when you drain the water, the first thing goes down the drain in the oil. You're right. Once it's in the colander, you dress it with some olive oil then, and then it won't stick. That makes sense.
Yeah. And look, Peter, I also, sometimes you have a pot where your pasta doesn't completely submerge, but it cooks at the, like this pot specifically, I didn't want to add too much water because, as you know, sometimes the water can also boil over once your pasta hits the pot. So I add my linguine in just like that. It will start to soften at the bottom. It's got enough time to cook properly. I don't worry about like I've seen some people break the pasta in half just so it all goes in there.
No.
But that's the way I normally cook it, and it comes out beautifully.
I mean, for me, when they break the pasta in half, it defeats the object of having those long threads of linguine or spaghetti that you need to get sauce wrapped around forks and get all into the dish. If you're going to break it into short pieces, then you might as well use penne.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I have to say, linguine is really one of my favorites, especially for that reason. My kids love it. We have it a lot with a good sort of tomato sauce. Or even just a normal spaghetti. But there's another pasta that I struggle to find here. It's called bucatini.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
But I also think, Reuben, I agree with you. Fresh pasta is fabulous, but when you've got things like the linguine and the spaghetti, you just cannot get the same consistency as you can with dried pasta. It just, it's fresh pasta is okay with something like tagliatelle or pappardelle or lasagna sheets, but when you want that, as you say, that body from it, you can only get that with the dried pasta. And that Barilla is a fantastic brand.
But also, I think only later on in my just not only my chefing career, but also actually cooking at home, is trying to home in on the flavor of pasta first before you start adding a lot of other flavors to it. That kind of nice sort of earthy flavor of pasta is what I love. I mean, that's instead of always having like an overly sort of rich sauce, unless it all goes together. Okay, my white wine and fennel, I can smell that fennel, really nice. So now my cream goes in. And I love using Parmalat cream, really good quality cream. That is, I know there's a place for those extra thick creams, but especially if you make sauces, creamy sauces specifically, I don't really like to use them as they tend to separate. So this cream for me is perfect.
I just wish more supermarkets would stock more than the 250 mils. I often want either 500 mils or a liter. You really have to struggle to find, because then you end up having to buy, especially if you're making a nice dessert or something along those lines, you then end up having to buy 250 mils. It would be nice if they had the larger bottles or larger containers on the shelves.
Yeah, I think they used to do that, but they definitely stopped doing it.
Yeah.
Pete, so what you want to do is just bring the cream up. It's going to boil, so and you have to be careful at this stage, obviously, because it can boil over. So I'm going to watch it and then whisk it as it goes down. What I want to get to is a nice consistency where it starts to thicken up. And this is what I mentioned earlier with the guys that's cooking for 4 people. It might take a little bit longer, but let it come up. It will sort of like boil, and then it's going to want to come over. Then just reduce the temperature, like what I've done here now. That can come up maybe a little bit more, and then I just want it to thicken up a little bit, and before we add the other ingredients. Just quickly back to the pasta piece. Also, it should take about 8 to 10 minutes to cook al dente, but that's what my recipe says, and I know we always talk about it, but just see what's happening in front of you. You know how you want your pasta to be cooked. I obviously want it al dente, but as you know, there's also 10 different types of al dente. I don't want it to be undercooked. I want it to be cooked with a slight bite to it.
Just a quick question that we have a question from Herman that says, do we add both creams? Herman, I'm assuming that means you're cooking for 4 people, so yes, add all of your cream.
Yeah, so I can see it's slightly starting to thicken. I'm just going to boil it a little bit more, and that's before we going to add the penne. I just want to smell this again because I really love the smell of Pernod, or Ricard is the other one that sometimes we get here locally. Obviously beautiful if you're cooking, you know, like even a bouillabaisse, or even you can add it to a bisque, because it adds that kind of, you know, that smell that you get is normally when you crush sort of star anise, then you get that nice smell. If you crush it in a mortar and pestle, and I love that smell. Okay, so my Pernod goes in.
You mentioned Istanbul before in your trips there. That also reminds me of the rakis that used to be the same thing. Just drinking just with ice when it turns that pastis, when it turns that cloudy color when you add water to it. It's got that powerfully strong aniseed flavor. It really is a very refreshing drink. And it works beautifully in sauces with seafood.
Yeah, no, I remember raki very well. It was quite strange, you know, when you go to Istanbul and you know, it's a country with obviously a big Muslim population as well. But then in the restaurants, then you can get that really sort of strong raki. Yeah, I think I had too much of it, Pete, when I was there.
When in Rome, dude, that's what you're supposed to do when you're there.
Okay, so I'm going to add my Pernod. Now, some people will ask, and maybe you will ask as well, Pete. So it's obviously got the alcohol in it, and sometimes you can burn it off. But when you boil and cook like this as well, the alcohol also sort of
it's going to evaporate,
burns off in a way. Yeah.
So just a question, Rube. If you were if you wanted to make this recipe without alcohol, would you just maybe double up on the fennel seeds?
Pete, I will double up on the fennel seeds, and I'll actually also add, like I mentioned earlier, a little bit of crushed star anise. If you can get star anise,
yes,
you know, add it to your fennel as well. Crush it lightly, and then you'll still get that flavor of fennel coming through beautifully. And yeah, you don't really need to even use the wine. You can maybe use some lemon juice in the recipe as well. The only thing is I won't add the lemon juice early in the recipe. I'll add it a little bit later, just before you finish
off this. Yeah. And we have a question from Bishan. Does the Pernod go in with the cream and the wine? Yes, Bishan, it does. Bomb it in.
Yeah, it's starting to smell really nice here. So again, once you add the Pernod, just allow it to cook a little bit down. You know, I'll sort of reduce it slightly again. I know the recipe doesn't specifically say that, but again, I want to get to the right consistency and not overly thick. You know, you want kind of like a elegant sort of light sauce. And a lot of times in the restaurants, we make these type of sauces and we kind of like whisk it up, either using a hand whisk or a hand blender, for example, froth it up a little bit. But I know some people also like their sauces slightly thicker. And this is where you can use tiny little bit of corn flour if you want to do that. Maybe you want to use this sauce for just another dish completely. But just sort of play around with it. That's the basics of this sauce. And just now I'm going to add the butter. And then that should be finished. I just want to quickly check on our pasta, Pete. And I think we're just about there. And now,
I mean, also with that sauce, that butter is going to help to thicken the sauce. That butter is also going to help thicken the sauce up as well, isn't it? Yeah. Definitely.
But quickly, something I want to just mention about the pasta. Now, because, you know, and this might happen if you do a dinner party. Once the pasta is cooked, just strain it, but try and keep the liquid that we're cooking it in. So when we're going to reheat it, I'll use that same liquid to reheat the pasta instead of doing it, you know, using different sort of new warm water or anything like that.
Fantastic. I see we have a comment here from Alex. He reduced the wine too much. He reduced it by drinking it. You can, if you want to, you can use your absolute zero, because we're after the acidity, not the alcohol in the sauce. So it'd be perfectly acceptable to throw a glug of your Van River and absolute zero into the sauce, you'll get that same fresh acidity out of it.
Okay, so now it's time. Add the butter to our sauce.
Okay, for those of you who fancy using your cool gift that we've got in the bag, now's the time to use your Marvello butter flavored. If you want to use that instead of butter, by all means, it's exactly what this is produced for. For montagne sauces, great for baking, really is a lovely, fresh, and adds great texture to sauces. So feel free to use the Marvello as Reuben's using the butter.
Okay, Pete, the butter's going to go in.
Mm-hmm.
And then while
so
as that goes in, you're just going
to whisk it. So the butter needs to go in cold. So you're whisking in cold butter, basically. You haven't melted the butter and poured it in. You're actually whisking blocks of butter. Okay, cool.
So, I would actually add, the colder the butter, the better. And that will just help
Why is
to
that?
give your sauce. Yeah, that. When you add the butter, when it's sort of already slightly almost melted, it doesn't have, the sort of emulsion in the butter. What you want is to froth up together with a hot sauce instead of just melting completely and the oil lying on top of it. So basically, you want to add cold butter. It melts slowly. You give it a whisk, and it incorporates better into the sauce.
Fantastic. Drew, just a matter of interest, how much butter are we actually adding to our sauce? What is the amount of butter that's going in? For those who are winging it with their block of Marvello, how much butter should they be adding?
So for 2 people, we're adding 80 grams and then 160 grams for 4 people. Just double.
Okay, cool. Fantastic. Brilliant.
Okay, and then once we add the butter, I'm going to remove my pot. And then we're just going to, you don't need to keep it warm or anything. I'll just put it here to one side. We'll just reheat that up a little bit later. So remove it completely from the heat. You don't want it to continue cooking at this stage. What can happen is what I just mentioned, the butter can, it can cook too long and it will almost slightly separate. So just keep it separate. We'll cook it and heat it up a little bit later again.
Cool. Okay, fantastic. And so, okay, Rube, so you haven't seasoned it. That you're going to do when you finish the sauce off later.
Yeah, I'll let it stand for a little bit and then I'll finish it. I'll put some salt and pepper, and I also want to put the fennel in a bit later. As we're going through all the steps, I want the fennel to still just retain its color. Okay,
cool. Okay, just to recap for those of you who are wondering about the butter, if you're cooking for 2 people, it's 80 grams of butter in your sauce. And if you're cooking for 4 people, it's 160 grams of butter in your sauce. Folks, I keep looking to the side here because I've got my iPad here and I can keep track of your comments. So I can see your as they come up. Question here from Heidi. Yes, if your sauce is still very thin, you can continue to cook it for a little bit longer. By all means. Let it cook down into the... So just let it cook down to the consistency you're happy with. Heidi, if that answers your question. Right, Rube, so what's next?
Yeah, Pete, I'll also just want to add, if you've added the butter already, don't reduce it then down too much. If you, this is not part of the recipe, but like I mentioned earlier, if you have a little bit of corn flour, add it to some water, cook the sauce up, add it to it until it thickens up. It won't change the flavor too much. It will just thicken it up. Quick solution.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But if you haven't added the butter, Pete, they can just reduce it more till the cream thickens up nicely.
Yeah. Madeleine Potgate is correct. Too much butter never killed anybody. In fact, it's always one of those things that the 3 most important ingredients when it comes to cooking are butter, butter, and butter. So there you go.
I agree with that completely. Okay, Pete.
Okay, so yeah.
So onto the prawns quickly, the seafood. So initially we, normally I use these prawns and they have sort of like their heads on. In this case, the heads are off, and it tends to make it a little bit difficult to then cut the prawns in half like you'd normally sort of like do. So I'm just going to peel them.
Okay, cool.
I'll
Makes
just quickly
sense.
show you. Look, the reason I'm doing that is really, you can see this is the size we're getting. Really beautiful prawns.
Right, yeah.
But if we're gonna cut them open, I'm scared that we're gonna squash them. So I'd rather just peel them. So I'll show you.
Okay.
It's quite easy to do it.
That makes sense.
Just from the bottom side up. Yeah, and then it'll still be very good. It'll in some cases will be even slightly nicer. But I'm gonna, just for decoration purposes, I'll keep the sort of tail on like that. Okay.
Okay, yeah. And also easier to eat in a pasta dish if you don't have to then fight your way through the shells. Although I find that with the exception of that, I'm quite happy to eat the shells and the legs. I think they're damn tasty, and there's some extra bit of roughage. I often just eat the whole thing, and just doesn't bother me really.
Well, I sort of agree with you. If you are just having a plate of prawns, if you're just going to have a plate of prawns, keep the heads and the shell on. I agree with that. Yeah. But I think in a pasta dish, obviously slightly different.
No, that makes more sense.
It shouldn't take too long. But yeah, I'm going to keep my tails on like that. And then what I did was I just sort of cut them on the back. I hope you can see that. So just sort of on the back, I just cut them open a little bit. For me, it kind of like makes the prawn even appear a little bit bigger. I know we eat with our eyes. If the prawn looks bigger and it looks more, I think it'll be even more tastier. And basically, it cooks slightly quicker like that as well.
Yeah. And then are you taking out the little poop tube as well?
Yeah, these ones are removed already. I think some of them have just tiny bits of it in there, but I think it's been removed already as well. So if you see it in there and you cut it open, just remove them.
Yeah.
But how they remove these
with the little pin,
Yeah.
So, folks, how are we doing out there? Are we all up to speed? Are we keeping up with Reuben? I think he's going at a fantastic pace. Everything is going along nicely. I think so far, where should we be at? What should be done by now?
Well, so the pasta is done. Our sauce is done. If some people are still reducing their sauce, that's fine. I'll reiterate again, if you think it's too thin, just we call it a bit of slurry. So basically corn flour and a bit of water, thicken it up with that. Because once we get to just cooking off the seafood, then we're just going to be doing the flavor for the pasta, Pete. And that is our lime and our chili and our zest. And then, of course, also just a little bit of smoked paprika with the chili.
Cool.
Okay, so I found a prawn. It's got a little bit more of the little worm inside, so it's a good idea to just cut them all open.
Cool. Right, we have a couple of comments here. Alex, we're slightly behind. Our sauce is a little on the thin side. One of our chefs is apprehensive on the consistency. Okay, well, if you're a little bit worried, as Reuben has mentioned, you can either, before you put your butter in, reduce it down a little further, or you can mix a little bit of maybe a tablespoon of corn flour with a little bit of water, and then whisk that in to thicken that up. Can we just give us a recap on the cleaning of the prawns there, please, Rube? So for those of you folks, we're departing a little bit from the recipe in that we're not just cleaning them and butterflying them. Reuben has decided there'll be a better, the dish will come out a lot better this time if we actually peel the prawns. Just take us through the peeling there, please.
Okay, Pete. Okay, firstly, I'll say the reason we changed it was on the recipe it said it's prawns with the heads on. These are without the heads. So instead of then butterflying them like that, I just feel we're going to squash them a little bit. If we normally you'd cut from the head and then you cut down, it will be much easier. But in this case, without the heads, I decided for us just to rather peel them. So you know, I just do them from the bottom side. They come off very easy, just like that.
Cool.
So you go all the way to sort of like the tail, and then you know we can leave the tails on, but they're very easy to peel. And then all I do is I cut them just over the top, just open, almost like halfway through. And then you can sort of clean it out if there's little bits in there still. And that's all we're doing. That's how it comes out.
Yeah, perfect. We have another question here. If keeping the shell on, should we still butterfly the prawns?
Yeah, so basically, like I showed now, we're just cutting sort of the back open. So for me, that's not butterflying. I'll show again how I cut it open. Which camera are we on? Pete, you can see this, right?
Yeah,
so
perfect.
There we have the full prawn with a little tail piece on. And then I'm just cutting into the prawn, and that's the back. Just open like that, not all the way down. Clean it out a little bit, and that's it. So that's how it comes out.
Excellent. I think that's, if you haven't got it by now, you're never going to get it. Let's see. Yeah, strong. Rickus, strong whiskey seems to be helping the nerves, I see. Good man. Nothing wrong with a little fortification while you're cooking.
Okay, so now we with the hake. Now, as you know, hake is quite delicate. I'll sort of like go a little bit slow here, but I've just kind of dried the hake especially on a bit of paper towel. And this is just to get it as dry as possible before it goes into the pan. And this kind of like helps you to almost get some color on the fish once it hits the pan without that sort of extra moisture that's normally on there. So I'm just going to season it, salt and pepper. And then I also have a little bit of flour, just a light dusting really. I mean, you don't need too much on it. No, and sometimes if you have a good non-stick pan, you almost don't even need it. But I think it also just adds a bit of sort of texture, crispiness to the fish itself. So salt on the backside, pepper, and then a tiny bit of flour. Okay, and then I'll just lay my prawns on here as well, and then I'll just quickly season them, just salt and pepper.
Just a comment there, Alex. Our chef's adding some flour to the sauce to thicken. No, you will not get kicked off the live stream for making a detour, a perfectly acceptable detour if you're not happy with the consistency of the sauce. So go mad, Alex. Thicken away.
Okay, Pete, time to cook our hake. So I'm going to start with a little bit of olive oil.
Mm-hmm.
So you just want a
so
nice heat going, you know, not
pan there.
Yeah. See, that's something you know we always talk about. It's basically this one is a non-stick pan, thick base. So the great thing about these pans are once the fish hits the pan, it doesn't lose too much temperature. Because if you have a pan that's kind of like too thin and it loses temperature once the fish hits it, that's when the fish sticks to the pan.
Yeah, cool. Oh, we've just had a question from Sonia, and you've just answered it. Fantastic stuff. We preempted your question there, Sonia.
Yeah, we preempted that. Okay, so I'm just going to wait for the heat to come up a little bit. Yeah. Pete, also what I want to do is, in the recipe, I did sort of, ask people to, you can chop your chilies and get your limes and juice ready. I'm going to do it while I'm cooking the pasta, and also just the garlic. I'll do that as we get there.
That's cool, because I'll bet that's exactly what most people are going to be doing. If I know some of our regulars, they don't always read the recipe before they start. We have noticed that, but that's cool. That's cool. We're all here to have a bit of fun, and I'm sure you'd really have to mess this up for it not to be edible, because you've got some fantastic ingredients, courtesy of Daily Dish and our fabulous sponsors. So, and you're making it very easy to keep up, Rube. I have to say that we've normally, with a lot of the chefs, they whistle ahead at 100 miles an hour, forgetting they're not in the professional kitchen. So we like the pace you're going at. No one has yet asked us to slow down, so that's always a good sign.
I might be going too slow, Pete, but let's rather do it that way.
Exactly. We're getting some nice compliments. Mark and Carolyn are saying the sauce smells awesome. So we're already getting some great results. So looking good, dude. Looking good.
Great. Okay, so my hake's going to go in the pan.
Excellent. A nice one, Sonia. They chop profusely before the time. We like to see a bit of prep, bit of mise en place being done. Excellent. Nice, skin side down. Is there what is the reason why we do skin side down, Rube?
Yeah, hake, normally with hake, you'll struggle slightly to get sort of a very crispy skin, but, you're obviously going to try as much as possible. And to be able to do that, I normally feel you need to have a clean pan. So as you start away, I'm going to work a little bit more on that skin side before I'm going to flip it over to the other side. And the other side, we're just going to give color. So most of the cooking is going to happen on this side as it is now, and then quick flip over. And I'm actually going to take it out by the time I get nice color, and the residual heat will just going to, cook the fish nice and soft.
Karen cooking it, perfect.
Yeah, our hake fillets are not too fat, so I think that should work perfectly.
Perfect. Brilliant.
I also want to add,
Mary. We have a comment. Yes, Mary, you can use some of the lime for margarita as well. By all means, go mad.
Pete, I just want to add here that, the one thing when people cook as well, especially when it comes to fish, especially pan cooking, is it's important to regulate temperature. You can see what's happening in front of you. If the temperature is too high, bring it down a notch. Especially with that recipe that I gave there, I think I normally cook fish, especially at a medium-high temperature, but sometimes I bring it down, especially if I want to finish the cook in the pan instead of like how normally we'd cook it, finishing it off in the oven.
Okay.
Pete, is that another joke that you didn't tell me, or what's happening?
No. I was just laughing at something I was watching. Sorry. Oh, I got a comment here
Okay,
from Craig Noyle. 2 daughters and mom trying to cook. Interesting times. It begs the question, Craig, what on earth are you doing? Dude, I hope you are pouring drinks and being supportive, not just looking from afar. Oh, that looks nice.
Okay, so I flipped my fish over. Now I'm going to bring the temperature down a notch, and then I'm going to add some butter to my pan.
Okay, wow. Again, folks, if you want to add a little bit of your fabulous Marvello butter flavor, you're more than welcome to add it to the pan now. It'll come out just as good.
Really, just try and control your temperature.
Yeah.
You don't want it too high. You know, just reduce it slightly. You just want this bubbling to start happening, as you can see here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so the butter will kind of like go slightly nutty, and that will just all add some extra flavor to this, to the hake.
And that will also help the skin crisp up as well, wouldn't it, Rube?
Exactly, exactly. So you've done that little bit of work already to crisp it up. So this will just, you know, enhance it and give some extra flavor and crisp it up even more.
Craig says he's drinking wine. Craig, as long as you're pouring wine as well as drinking, that's acceptable. It's always the thing with cooking. You have to stay properly hydrated. So if you're making sure your family are suitably hydrated, that's also fine, dude. Carry on.
Good man, Craig.
Okay, how much butter have we added there? Probably, I would say, about, what, 2 tablespoons into the pan there, Rube, that you added?
About 2 tablespoons I've added in there, yes. You're correct. Pete, so now they're kind of halfway through, so I'm going to start adding the prawns to the pan as well. So they're going to go straight in.
Oh,
Remember, we're
straight in
seasoning
now.
them
Okay,
already.
brilliant. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Just a quick we had two questions about this. Greta is asking, what is the paprika for? The paprika is not part of the recipe. The paprika is just a gift for those fabulous people at Robertson's for the next seafood dish that you're going to make. It's a little pasella from our fantastic sponsors. It's not actually included in the dish today.
We're using a little bit of smoked paprika, but just on the pasta. Once we get there, Pete.
Yeah. Okay, we've got a question here from Foodie Whipped SA. Did you add flour to both sides of the fish?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, and that's just to stop it sticking in the pan, correct? Gives a nice little nice bit of crunch to it, but also to stop it, prevents it from sticking to the pan.
And it was a tiny bit, you know, just like little sprinkle that I put on there.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to remove my hake.
Absolutely glorious.
So the hake I'm going to remove, I can just feel it's close to being completely cooked, but I don't want to finish cooking it in the pan, as it will obviously continue cooking, you know, that remaining time before we start plating up.
Yeah, and it is such a delicate fish hake as well that you really can get away with it. Carry on cooking once you've taken it off the heat.
Yeah, Pete, I do that a lot, especially with chicken breast, with fish. I like to kind of bring it up to, you know, once the internal temperature of the fish is where it actually starts cooking and it's warm, you can remove it from your pan, and that extra residual heat will just, you know, allow it to continue cooking. And then you get like a beautiful, juicy end result. Okay, so I'm going to flip the prawns. I have to say they're smelling amazing.
It looks, from where I'm sitting looking down into your pan, Reuben, I have to say, it looks absolutely gorgeous. It really does. Nice bit of color on those prawns there. It is looking super
beautiful
sexy.
Color.
Dude. It really looks good, yeah.
Beautiful color, and then also the, you know, that butter, if your temperature is too high, and if it was only the butter the prawns the butter would definitely go too dark, and it will probably go past nutty and where it starts to burn. Now that is exactly.
And then the prawns
perfect.
just curl up and overcook completely as well.
Yeah, exactly. So mine is on kind of like medium heat at the moment, and I think they're just about done. And I'm going to remove them, and then we can quickly get into.
Again, the theory with the prawns is the same as the fish. They're going to continue cooking when you take them out of the pan. So you don't want to have them perfectly cooked. You want them just a little bit under so that they continue to finish off themselves. People always forget that the food it's still hot, so it's going to continue cooking.
Yeah. I mean, that applies not only to steak, but it applies to fish, prawns, all of that. You know, for me, now I can see there's still a little bit of glassiness on the prawn meat, but that's gonna cook beautifully and kind of soft. You know, a nice and soft cook for the next 2 minutes. I'm just going to pour some of this nice butter over here.
It's almost like you just want to set the flesh more than anything else.
Exactly. Pete, so what I want to do now is just to kind of finish off our pasta. So some of our guests tonight have obviously already started to prep, but I'm just going to do the lime quickly, and then I'm going to chop my garlic. It shouldn't take too long. Now, this is something I have to say that I kind of overuse sometimes, you know, the zest of the lime or the lemon, and not only when it comes to you know, seafood dishes. I also use it many times with kind of salsa that goes with kind of meaty dishes as well. But yeah, I just love it, especially limes. I mean, it's obviously good in a nice cocktail. I agree. But you know, when it comes to cooking, I think it's just delicious.
Just people must just remember you just want the actual rind itself. Don't go all the way down till you see the flesh, because that white pithy bit can be quite bitter. You just want that lovely natural oil, that bitterness from the zest that really livens up a dish. Whether it's a salsa, fish, pasta like this, even to finish soups off is actually really, really quite nice with zest.
Yeah, but I think that's why a good microplane works well. It's kind of difficult to always get to the white parts if you use a good sharp microplane. So I mean that helps quite a bit. Listen, so you can leave some of the seeds in if you like sort of more hot chili. You know, be my guest. You can leave some of that in. I'm gonna feed this to my kids afterwards. So one of them is not so keen on chili, so I'm taking it out.
But also, jalapenos are not particularly hot chilies. I mean, a general for those of you who don't use a lot of chili. A general rule of thumb is that the larger the chili, the less fire it's got. When you start to get the smaller ones, as they start to get smaller and smaller, so they intensify in heat. That's a general rule of thumb. So jalapenos are considered mild in the sort of chili scheme of things. Yeah.
I kind of like to use them a lot because I find the flavor is just beautiful, you know. But with this pasta dish, if you want to use hot chilies, you can use it, but also kind of dry chili works well with it as well.
So just some chili flakes would do the trick.
Chili flakes is perfect, yeah. I mean, that's now if you just want to do a quick little pasta with some chili, you know, and garlic and all these other ingredients.
And I agree with what you say about the jalapenos. You know, the addition of chili is not just about heat. Chilies really have a really awesome flavor and really round off and add body to a dish. So it's not just about making it hot, because then you can just add a hefty pinch of cayenne pepper and burn your own face off.
Yeah. No, look, I mean, that's maybe jalapeno. What I love about it is you know, the actual flavor of them. I love. I mean, like, especially when it comes to seafood, they're just amazing. So let me just have that there. Pete, so this is quite important here, you know, where we're going to add our olive oil to our pan again. So we're not just going to be frying. This is actually the oil that we're going to use to kind of fold through our pasta.
Okay.
So, you know.
So we're more infusing than frying.
We're not frying. We're basically infusing. So this is somewhere where we have to be quite careful not to heat our oil up too much. You should be able to still touch the oil without burning your finger.
Okay.
That's kind of like the temperature we're going for.
Okay,
and the oil, the garlic is going to go in. So we're not even waiting for the oil to heat up because we're going to bring that heat up anyway. And then these chilies were quite big, so I'm not going to use all of them.
Mm-hmm. See, people are getting ahead of themselves here. I think Therese says she's having trouble stopping hubby tasting the fish. Roberto, hold on, dude. If you think it tastes good now, wait till she finishes the whole dish off. Then you're really going to taste some serious stuff. So hold on, dude. Hold on. Just a couple of minutes longer.
Yeah, no, we're close. We're close to finishing it off. So yeah, as you can see, Pete, there's no. I'll quickly seal it as well. I'll increase it slightly. So, you know, if you get a little bit frustrated and you think, I want to fry it, I want more heat, just give it a chance. Just let it sort of infuse. You'll start to smell it, but don't let it fry because that's just going to kill it. You know, it's not the flavor that we after for this dish.
Yeah.
Okay, so
and also, I think
we have
run the risk of burning the garlic and having all this hard work ruined by a horrible bitter taste.
I would also add that you actually change the flavor of your oil. If you have a good quality olive oil and you heat it up too much, you actually lose that beautiful flavor of the oil, and that's what we're also after to sort of flavor our pasta. So yeah, I've got some smoked paprika, and I'm also going to just add kind of a pinch to it, not too much. I would say half a teaspoon. And then while that's happening, I just quickly want to get my pasta in my water again, just so it softens slightly.
Oh, bummer, dude. Andrew is allergic to prawns. Oh, wow. Guess he's only going to have half a meal this evening. That's too bad, dude. Oh, well, more for Barbara.
I think he can have all the fish.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to get away with that.
Okay, so I'm just going to get my pasta out here quickly.
So how are we doing, folks? I have to say I haven't seen one comment that people are being left behind. So you must be going at a great pace for everyone to keep up, Rube. That's fantastic. I'm assuming everybody is where you are and that we're heating up our seasoned oil. So we're getting slowly ready to start finishing the dish off.
Yeah, so I'm going to move a little bit faster now because Pete, I'm going to move a little bit faster now, as obviously you don't want the fish and the prawns to cool down too much at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So
cool.
I'm just going to add now just a little bit of salt to our garlic and chili as well. I'm just using some, rough salt here.
Yeah.
And on the other side, I'm going to heat up my sauce again.
And are you warming up your white wine and Pernod sauce as well now?
Yeah, so just reheat the sauce again because we're pretty close to plating up. And I'm just reheating that quickly, giving it a nice whisk.
And at what stage do you add the zest, Rube?
I haven't added it yet, Pete. I'm going to add it now.
Oh, you haven't added it yet. Okay, cool. And we have a question here from Alex. Sorry, we just have a question from Alex. Finely chop the jalapenos. Yeah, look, you can roughly chop them, so you'll get a little bit of crunch to your dish. But as Reuben said, if you don't like it too hot, you might want to take the seeds out. But if you like a bit of fire, by all means, leave the seeds in.
Okay, so my chili, I'm going to put there. Sorry, my parsley goes in. The zest.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going to do some of the juice, obviously. And well, now
this dish,
my pasta is nice and warm.
Just keeps looking tastier and tastier.
And now,
okay, are you about ready to plate up, Rube? Are you gonna? Okay, are you gonna put the pasta?
Not
into
completely.
Your...
I'm gonna finish the pasta quickly, please, and then because we still what we want to do here is obviously
just dress the pasta. So basically, you put the pasta back in the hot water to warm it through, and then bombed it into the infused pan with all those fresh ingredients.
Yeah, I just use the same. I use the same water I boiled it in because you don't want to heat it up in another way. I kept that water that I strained, and then I just heated it up in there quickly. Your pasta must be warm already, basically. I'll add a tiny little bit of salt here, and now this is maybe another thing that people say you can't do. Well, I've heard it a lot of times, but we are going to be using cheese with our pasta, even though we're serving it with seafood. It is totally allowed.
Okay. Yes. Oh, if you say so, Rube. There are Italians that are turning in their grave, but never mind. Sorry, a question from Franklin. When do we add the teaspoon of paprika that goes into your seasoned oil, my friend? In with your garlic, in your chilies. That's when you add your smoked paprika. Yes, I see that Lydia and Elise are tucking into the booze. We are drinking some Valera Brut special dressage, perfectly accompaniment with this dish. Well done, girls. Please leave some pasta for me. Great stuff.
Okay, Pete.
I mean,
so we're basically ready to plate.
I mean, you could eat that pasta on its own as a fantastic dish. Just like that would be bloody tasty, wouldn't it?
This is how I like my pasta. I actually have this either just like that or with chicken. But I love having it just like that. Like a weekday lunch. That's what I go for.
Yeah, it's perfect, huh? I mean, it's going to be fantastic with the fish and the prawns and the cream sauce. But that I think is going to be great. All right, Rube, while you start to put the finishing touches, I've just got a little bit of business to take care of. So remember, folks, for those of you still with us, we know we've got a lot of people cooking in Noordhoek, and I haven't heard any sirens yet or seen any pillars of smoke come up on the horizon. So it means that we haven't had any major disasters, and everyone seems to be enjoying themselves from looking at the comments. But remember, of course, again, interactive, and this is also where we start looking for competitions. Remember to enter your best looking competition. This is where you need to take a picture of your plated masterpiece and post it on Instagram with a hashtag live cook channel. There is a prize and you stand a chance of winning an entire case of wine. Stay tuned to our social media when we'll be announcing the various on our various media platforms. The winner will be announced on Friday the 28th of February. So don't forget, folks, if it's not on Instagram, it doesn't exist. And always with the hashtag live cook channel. Right, Rube, back to you, my man.
Okay, Pete. My sauce is done here. I'm just going to put some of the fennel prawns. Basically, I'm just going to break it in there. I need to.
Okay. Yes.
So the fennel, and remember, we never seasoned it, so you can add a little bit of salt to your sauce as well. You don't need to chop it. So basically just off the front like that. That's perfect. Tiny bit of salt. And then we're going to plate up. Just a nice whisk.
Fantastic. Oh, Mark and Carolyn nearly burnt the sauce. Man alive, that wouldn't have been a ruination of a Valentine's present if someone burnt the sauce.
I think they were looking
Elise?
elsewhere if you burnt the sauce. But anyway,
Exactly. Elise, just a quick
I hope
question.
it didn't
Elise,
happen.
how can you possibly be lost? This is the slowest cook we've had. You must be able to keep up by now.
Okay, so Pete, I'm just going to use my fork. You don't need to do that.
Okay, very chefy technique to roll it like that, but very cool.
I want quite a bit of pasta on there. Then the hake. Yeah, and then you can just basically, the prawns just goes on top like that.
Fantastic. Another question: how come the paprika goes into the seasoned oil that you toss your pasta in? If you want to add that a little bit later, you can as a seasoning, not the end of the world. Oh no, you can't miss Vicky. Good thing you noticed the fennel fronds right at the last minute there. Fantastic stuff. Rube, that is looking absolutely stunning.
Okay, and then obviously this is, for me, what makes this dish is the sauce. So that goes nicely over the pasta. Yeah. Remember, we tried to crisp up the skin of the fish, so I'm not going to actually put the sauce over the fish skin. And I'm a sauce guy, so I put a lot of sauce on.
Nothing wrong with a lot of sauce, especially not one as delicious as that.
Okay, and then, just to finish it off, maybe a little bit more pepper. If you want to, as we normally do, just a drizzle of olive oil, and that's it.
Fantastic. Well, I don't know about you guys, but that looks...
I'll show it here.
Oh, look at that. That looks absolutely scrumptious, Rube. I have to say that looks fantastic. Excellent, guys. Do we strain out the fennel? No, Governor, you keep the fennel in. The fennel is also part of the garnish. Okay, so, folks, while Reuben is just having a little taste of his dish, those of you who've been watching, and particularly those of us who joined us in December, will remember that we have some fantastic prizes to give away. I did mention them at the beginning of the program, and we've been having a competition for the last 2 months, a fantastic Weber Braai giveaway. And it's a time to announce our lucky winners. Thanks very much to Weber for their generous partnership in this competition, and for everyone who booked for 2 or more boxes, which qualified them to go into the lucky draw. And we have 2 magnificent prizes: a gorgeous Weber Spirit 2 E310 gas braai, a magnificent piece of equipment valued at 10,500 rand, and then, not to be scoffed, but the Weber Connect Smart Hub, an absolute genius bit of kit for Brian worth 4,000 rand, is also up for grabs. And so we have our 2 winners, and the winner of the Weber Spirit, is Angela Gomez from Noordhoek. Well done, Angela. You're a lucky winner of this magnificent Weber Spirit 2 E310 gas braai. Great piece of equipment. I've brought on one many times. It really is a serious piece of equipment. And then our second prize of the the beautiful Weber Connect Smart Hub goes to Mary Moyer of Lakeside. Well done, Mary. Also a fantastic bit of equipment to help you do some top-notch braaiing, thanks to Weber. Right. Don't forget to check out, folks, the Nestle. Go to Nestle Professional if you want to look at that fantastic Aero Malfa pudding recipe. If you fancy knocking this dish up and still have some time to make some dessert, remember to go to the site and check out the link on the screen, and you can cook that for your dessert. If you don't have any nougat left from that beautiful Sammy Sally Williams Nougat. And what a way to kick off 2021. A fantastic cook. Don't forget to join us for our next episode, the end of March, where we'll be cooking with none other than the amazing George Jardine of Jardine's Restaurant in Jordan. And you need to book to cook if you want to play along. And you can do that on any of our platforms, Quicket, Food Guru, or Web Tickets. And remember to follow us and subscribe to us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. We'd love to hear from you. We're not just about communicating during our program, but let us know your thoughts about the program, what you enjoyed, what you'd like to see more. Fantastic. Right. We also have Rube, someone else to give away. Where's Rube? He's probably scoffing his chow by now. We need to get our Reuben back. So, Rube, how's that pasta tasting? Does it taste as good as it looked?
Pete, I didn't taste of the plate. I just had out of the pan, but exactly how I like it. You know, that little bit of zestiness, and then how that pairs, especially with the sauce. You know, one of my favorite sort of flavor combinations. Beautiful.
Fantastic. And remember, folks, if you want to win a case of wine, you need to take a picture of your completed dish, your masterpiece, your live cook masterpiece, and post it on Instagram with the hashtag live cook channel. And we do have another lucky winner who's a lucky prize draw, who's the winner of our free meal kit, and that goes to Nolutandu Bianca. And she will be getting a free meal kit giveaway. So she'll be joining us on our next cook. Fantastic, Rube. Well, I don't know what else to say, but thank you very much for enjoying us. It's been an absolute joy having you on board. It was a great recipe, a nice, easy cook. I've never seen so many positive replies on our feed. Thank you all for your comments and making this as interactive as we possibly can. Dude, we'll see you when we see you, my man, Rube.
Cheers,
thanks
Pete.
very much. Great for joining us.
I think I'll have a full glass just after this, so thanks.
Fantastic. Well, you've certainly earned it, my man. And to our live cookers, those who've been with us all along, and for those of us who've joined us for the first time this evening, and those of you who just watched along and cannot wait to get stuck in next time. Good night, and may the sauce be with you.
fire